Communication technologies definitely were wider spread in the families than they had been 4 years ago, which is in part an indication that these technologies had become cheaper and therefore more affordable. When I was there in 2007, few families had cell phones, and when they did, not everybody had one. Part of that might have been that their eldest child at the time was 13 or 14, and so it may have meant that if they'd had a kid of 18 at that time, that child would have had a cell phone. That we can't know. But I do know that their now 18-year-old does. And in two of the families, the girls no longer lived at home. One was married and living with her husband about an hour away. The other had had a child with her boyfriend at 15 and was living in his family's house about 10 minutes away. But both of them talked about how the cell phone provides them with the affordances of being able to keep in very close touch with their family, and that for the daughter who's an hour away, she talked about how it allows her mom to call her if she receives a letter when Liliana is not going to see her for a while. And now her mom, who wouldn't have understood any of the words in that letter, understands most of it, but there's certain words she's not sure about, and those words she knows are important. So she'll call Liliana and read her the letter, and Liliana will explain whatever it was that she didn't understand, which also provides an opportunity for her mom to learn new words that she wouldn't have known, so that next time she sees them, she may be able to manage that on her own far more. These are families that are, for the most part, working poor. Most of the families were well under the poverty line. When I interviewed them, there were some families of 4 or 5 who were living on less than $15,000 a year. And so these were not homes that were necessarily media-rich environments, and 4 years later they still weren't. There's a lot of things that are not there, but what is there is being engaged in a variety of ways. One of the families, and I went back to interview their son, who was 11 when I knew him, and he's now a young man of 16. The family sometimes has a home phone. A lot of the time it's cut off because they haven't been able to pay the bill. They don't have internet access because it's too expensive. This is a family who's living on less than $15,000 a year. But as we were talking, he pulls out an iTouch. And I said, "Where did you get that?" And he told me that his dad gives him $1 or $2 to buy lunch at school. And that he didn't buy lunch at school for over a year. He went the whole day without eating because it meant that at the end of it, he had enough money to go and buy this iTouch. And there's a coffee shop across the street that he gets Wi-Fi access from. And so he sits in the room that he shares with his brothers, and he's able to connect with the internet in the only way that he has as a home-based connection, which is really a mobile device. And he uses that as his primary way of accessing the internet and connecting with friends on Facebook and doing all the other things that kids do who have far more financially than he does. So these families have less, but what they have, they really use. And they use in perhaps a wider and more innovative set of ways than might be expected.